AI is like the word on everyone's lips these days.
Yeah, it's everywhere you look.
But put them together, AI and podcast. OMG, AI.
Catchy, right?
Definitely attention grabbing.
Yeah, and it tells you something about how people see AI, you know?
Definitely a sense of buckle up.
A little bit of awe, a little bit of, oh my God, what's next?
Exactly. Makes you wonder if we're ready for a podcast like OMG AI.
Maybe, maybe not. Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. And today we're going to be looking at AI and L&D. And for this one, we're going to be drawing from a really fascinating presentation by Myra Roldan. She's the CEO of Ondesto AI, so she definitely knows her stuff when it comes to this topic. And she gave this talk at L10s, which is a big conference for L&D professionals. So what's really interesting about this presentation is that she doesn't just talk about AI in this abstract way. She really brings it down to earth and gives you these really practical tips and takeaways for how we can actually start using AI in our L&D roles today. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of dive into some of the key points. Like, she has this really cool analogy with a car that she uses to explain different types of AI. And she also does this fun little pop quiz where you realize that we're already thinking like AI in some ways. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here.
Yeah, she's a really engaging speaker, and she really knows how to make this complex topic accessible. Like that car analogy you mentioned. It's so simple, but it really helps you understand the different levels of AI, like machine learning and deep learning, and how they all fit together.
Right. Yeah, so let's talk about that car analogy for a minute. Can you break it down for us?
Okay, so imagine the car itself represents AI as a whole, like the entire system, you know? And then you've got machine learning, which is like the engine of the car. It's all about processing data, making predictions, driving the AI's functionality.
Okay, so AI is like the framework, and machine learning is the engine that makes it go.
Exactly. And just like different cars need different engines, different machine learning algorithms are designed for specific tasks. Now, if we want to take this analogy even further, deep learning is like the high-octane fuel. That powers that engine. It's the data that enables AI to really tackle those complex problems.
So the better the data, the better the AI performs.
Exactly. And then finally, we have generative AI.
Ah, yes, generative AI. I feel like that's the term that everyone's throwing around these days.
Right. It's definitely having a moment. But in terms of the car analogy, think of generative AI as like the car's creative output. So things like the self-driving features, the navigation system, even the music system, it's what allows AI to create new content like text, images, even music.
Okay, so we've got the car, the engine, the fuel, and the creative output. But where do we fit into all of this? Are we just passengers along for the ride?
That's a great question, and that's where Myra made a really important point. She said that humans are the drivers of this car. AI is a powerful tool, but it still needs our input, our guidance, our expertise. We decide where to go, how to use AI safely and ethically, and how to make the most of its potential.
I love that it's so empowering to remember that we're in control, even as AI becomes more and more sophisticated.
Absolutely. And to illustrate how our brains actually already work like AI in some ways, Myra had this really fun activity during her presentation. It was like a name that tune game where she gave the audience incomplete song lyrics.
Oh, that's interesting. So it was like those finish the sentence AI tools that we see online.
Exactly. It showed how our brains naturally try to predict what comes next based on context and probabilities, just like large language models or LLMs.
LLMs.
Yeah, basically those are the models that power a lot of these AI tools.
Okay, so when we're like subconsciously filling in those lyrical gaps in our heads, we're essentially doing a mini version of what these LLMs are doing.
Yeah, kind of. And that brings us to another important concept that she talked about, the token economy.
Token economy, what is that?
So imagine you're asking an AI to write you a story about the Muffin Man.
Okay.
Each word like Muffin Man lives on Drury Lane would be a token. Even punctuation marks count as tokens. And basically, the more tokens involved in your request, the more processing power is needed and the more expensive it can be.
Ah, so is that why some AI tools have limits on how much text you can put in or charge you based on usage?
Exactly.
Interesting. So it's like this hidden world of how AI is processing information.
It is, and it's something to be mindful of as you start using these tools more and more.
Yeah, I'm starting to see that there's a lot more to AI than meets the eye.
Definitely. And we're just scratching the surface here.
Well, luckily, we have a lot more to cover in this deep dive. So let's move on to Myra's next point.
Yeah.
Which is all about crafting effective prompts.
Okay, let's do it. So Myra has this really cool framework that she calls the RICE-E framework for crafting effective prompts.
RICE-E. Okay, I love a good acronym. Break it down for me.
So RICE stands for Role Instructions, Context, and Examples. And basically, by including all four of these elements in your prompts, you're giving the AI a much clearer roadmap to follow.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Walk me through this.
Right.
How would I use this RICE-E framework to say, get an AI to help me design a training module on cybersecurity awareness?
Okay, great example. So first you would define the AI's role. So you might say something like, you're a cybersecurity training specialist, or you are an instructional designer, something like that.
Okay, so I'm setting the stage, giving the AI a persona to work with.
Exactly. Then you give it clear instructions. So you might say something like, design an engaging training module on cybersecurity awareness for employees.
Got it. So far, so good. What about the context part?
Yeah, so context is where you provide all the additional information that the AI needs to really understand your request. So for example, you might specify the target audience. Are these entry-level employees? Are they senior managers? What's their current level of cybersecurity knowledge? You might also mention the desired learning outcomes, like what do you want people to be able to do after they take this training? And you could even mention the tone you're aiming for, like do you want it to be formal, informal, and so on.
So the more specific I am, the better.
Exactly. And then finally, we have examples.
Examples. Okay, why are those important?
So examples help the AI understand your style, your preferences. You might provide snippets from previous training materials, links to relevant articles, or even sample quiz questions. The more context you give, the better the AI can tailor its output to your needs.
That makes a lot of sense. I can see how this RICE framework could be really helpful.
It's a game changer. And Myra also had this great tip about saving your prompts.
Oh yeah, tell me about that.
She said that we should all be building a prompt library. So think of it as like your personal collection of AI shortcuts. Whenever you find a prompt that works really well, save it for future use.
Oh, that's brilliant. I'm always wasting so much time trying to come up with the perfect prompt.
I know, right? This way you can pull from your library and save yourself a ton of time.
Awesome tip. Okay, so we've talked about the car analogy, the token economy, and the ICE framework for prompting, but let's get even more practical here. How did Myra suggest that we actually start integrating AI into our L&D workflows?
Okay, so she had this really interesting exercise in her presentation where she took a list of common L&D tasks and she had the audience categorize them into 3 buckets: tasks to give to AI, tasks to share with AI, and tasks to keep from AI.
So basically deciding which tasks AI can handle on its own, which ones we need to collaborate with AI on, and which ones are best left to humans.
Exactly. It's about being strategic about how we use this technology.
I like it. So what kind of tasks would we typically give to AI?
So tasks that are very repetitive or data-driven or time-consuming, those are often good candidates to give to AI. Things like updating existing training materials, generating quiz questions, things like that.
Okay, so tasks where AI can really shine in terms of efficiency and accuracy.
Right? And then we have tasks to share with AI.
Okay, so this is where it gets a little more nuanced.
It does. So these are tasks that involve more creativity or strategy or complex decision-making. Things like designing learning experiences or developing scenarios or providing personalized feedback.
So in these cases, AI is more like a creative partner, helping us explore different possibilities and come up with new ideas.
Exactly. We're leveraging AI's strengths, but we're still in the driver's seat.
Okay, and then finally we have tasks to keep from AI. What are the no-go zones, so to speak?
Right. So these are tasks that really require deep subject matter expertise. Ethical judgment, a nuanced understanding of human behavior. Things like setting learning objectives, evaluating program effectiveness, or addressing sensitive issues related to diversity and inclusion.
Got it. So basically anything that requires a human touch.
Exactly. And this leads us to another really important point that Myra made, which is about choosing the right AI tools for the job. She had some really practical advice about this, emphasizing that it's not just about the cost, but also about the tool's features, security data privacy policies, and overall alignment with your organization's values.
It's like choosing a business partner. You need to make sure you're compatible on multiple levels.
It really is like choosing a business partner. You want to make sure it's a good fit.
So where do we even begin? Like what are some of the key factors to consider when we're evaluating AI tools?
Well, Myra highlighted several important points. First and foremost, you really need to look at the tool's purpose and functionality. Does it align with your specific L&D needs? Does it offer the features and capabilities that you're looking for?
Yeah, that seems pretty basic, but I guess it's easy to get caught up in all the hype.
Yeah.
And forget to ask those fundamental questions.
It happens, and then, of course, there's cost. AI tools can range from free to quite expensive.
Okay.
So you definitely need to factor that into your decision.
Right. It's not just about the upfront cost either, right? You also need to think about things like ongoing subscription fees, usage limits, potential costs for training and support.
Yeah, it's like buying a car, you know?
Yeah.
There's the sticker price, but then there's also the cost of insurance, gas maintenance, all that stuff.
Exactly. And speaking of cars, remember that whole analogy about humans being the drivers
Oh, yeah.
in the AI landscape?
Right.
Well, data security is a huge part of responsible driving. You need to make sure that the AI tool you choose has strong security measures in place to protect your data and your users' privacy.
Absolutely. That's a really big one, especially in the L&D world,
Yeah.
where we're often dealing with sensitive employee information.
So what else should we be looking at?
Data storage is another key consideration.
Yeah.
Where is your data being stored? Who has access to it? Is it being transferred across borders? These are all important questions to ask, especially if your organization has strict data privacy policies.
It sounds like choosing an AI tool requires a lot of due diligence.
It does, but it's worth the effort to make sure you're making the right choice for your needs. And Myra offered one final piece of advice that really resonated with me. She encouraged us to really think about the values that are embedded in the AI tools that we choose.
Values. What do you mean by that?
Well, every AI tool is built on certain assumptions and biases, whether conscious or unconscious. And these biases can be reflected in the data that the tool is trained on, the algorithms that it uses, even the way it's designed and marketed.
So it's not just about the technical specs, but also about the ethical implications of using a particular tool.
Exactly. We need to ask ourselves if the values embedded in the tool align with our own personal values and with the values of our organizations.
That's a really important point, I think. This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. It's clear that AI is rapidly changing the landscape of L&D, and it's up to us to approach these changes with both enthusiasm and a critical eye.
I completely agree.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the biggest takeaway that you're walking away with?
You know, for me, it's that reminder that AI is a tool, not a replacement for human expertise. It's up to us to harness the power of AI while staying true to our values and our commitment to creating meaningful learning experiences.
And as Myra encouraged us, we need to keep learning, experimenting, and asking questions.
Absolutely. The world of AI is constantly evolving, so it's up to us to stay informed and adapt to the changes.
Well said. That's a great note to end on. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into AI and L&D. We hope you found it valuable and that it sparked some new ideas and insights. Until next time, keep exploring and keep learning.
Are you looking to upskill your team in AI? Check out your Academy AI. Their expert AI training team has enabled some of the world's top companies to effectively adopt AI. Your team gains critical skills that lay the foundation for responsible innovation. From AI fundamentals, AI policy governance and ethics, to AI tool evaluation and building AI agents. To learn more, visit the link in the show notes.